Hi everybody, well welcome to our second vlog. Gotta get used to saying vlog, it's kind of an odd word, but this is, we're gonna do this once a month. I hope that you'll send in questions or things you want to know about, things you've got questions for me or for Rebecca. Maybe you have some tech questions about Zooming or anything, and let her know. So we're gonna talk today about warriors. So we have, there are 4 of you that have had or are getting ready to have knee surgery within weeks of each other. 2 have already had their knee surgeries, one a week ago, one 2 weeks ago. Somebody's having theirs next week and somebody's having theirs the week after. So like, damn, what did I do? Trying really hard not to take this personally. But what that means is that these people that have had knee surgery are going to have to come back into standing postures a little differently. And it may take them months to get back, even as much as a year to get back to doing what they might consider the full expression of the pose for them, right? And then we've got people that maybe aren't comfortable doing warriors for whatever reason, balance issues, and maybe you're different from one side to the other, right? So we want to look at warriors, the standing, and then some variations seated, some variations standing but supported. There's a lot of ways you can play with a pose to make it your own. Any pose. Let me just state by saying that any pose, you can make it adaptable to you, period. We talk about adapted yoga. We're trying not to say limited or your limitations or this is better yoga than that yoga or whatever. It's nonsense. Adapted simply means that each one of us comes to the mat equipped or unequipped, period. And for some people, it might not be something that looks physical. For some people, it might be something that is more emotional or mental. For me, being on the mat requires an enormous amount of patience. When I take a class, or when I'm doing my own practice, it's real easy for me to talk myself out of doing fill in the blank X. I don't like that pose, I'm not gonna do it. Which is probably the ones I need to do the most. But for me, those are the big takeaways. And of course, I have my own hip issue, right? I've got an entirely different right hip from the left, completely different. So we all come to the mat equipped differently. Right? So what's a challenge to you may not be a challenge to me. And what's a challenge to me may be a piece of cake for you. I love to sit back and watch everybody in child's pose. And on my child's pose, I look a bit like that. Chest on the ground and the arms all the way out, their hips all the way back, and they just look lovely. I can't do that. And haven't been able to for decades. We teach poses like that, like they're so simple. Just use child's pose. Just go to child's pose and take your break. Right?
Yeah.
Is child's pose your break?
No. I mean, it feels good in the moment because it is a more stationary pose. But then if you really start to think about it, then you're like, oh, all this stuff I'd rather just do Savasana right now.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So we say that to say any pose is adaptable. What's your adaptation? I don't know. I get tired of people talking about adapted yoga or adapted anything as if it were something less than.
Yes.
You can't do real yoga? Well, then we'll adapt it. No, your yoga got your ass on the mat. Sorry. This is for public consumption. I probably shouldn't swear as much. But your yoga got you on the mat. It's your yoga that's going to keep you on the mat. All of us adapt, period.
Absolutely.
I mean, we as an army of female yoga teachers for the last 3 decades or so, we've been adapting it because most of the poses that we see and think of as traditional yoga were made for 12-year-old boys.
That's right.
Pubescent, prepubescent and teenage young men by Krishnamacharya 100 years ago, right? Based on some old poses that go back a long way. This is true. But even they were meant for the male body, not the female pelvis at all. Or, yeah, wide, narrow, doesn't matter. We have a different shape. Theirs is more of a squared off pelvis. We have this beautiful flare and it comes to the front this way. We have a very different pelvic structure. We have a different strength. Watch a man do chaturanga who's never done yoga before, who's never worked out. He's a little chunky, you know, got a great dad bod, but he really doesn't work out. And he can nail chaturanga like anything because that's where all his body mass is, right? We're over here going, after 30 years of doing chaturanga, so we've been adapting yoga for decades, right? We just need to keep doing that, and quit acting like adapting something makes it less than. I cry BS tears. Okay, so let's talk about warriors. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take a small break here. We're going to reset up and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. What I want to do is I'm going to show you the way we do our warrior sequence on Wednesdays, right? Warrior 2 in particular, and then we'll come back and address Warrior 1 and the adaptations that we can do for it. But let me show you briefly standing, because let's talk about some issues that some people might have while standing first, okay? So I usually start with the feet wide. And she's going to go along with us using the chair, and then we'll come back and answer some questions about chair stuff. So we want the second toe straight ahead. And what that does, somebody said, what does it matter? What happens when your foot is straight ahead is that you have a little bit more of an internal rotation here at the pelvis. If you turn the toes out and the pelvis doesn't go with you, the knee's going to take the load. If you turn the toes out and your feet aren't really comfortable, you'll collapse that arch. Watch this foot, you'll collapse that arch, and trust me, it happens. Or when you go into Warrior 2, this toe's out, and boy, does that knee take a load. So check in here. This allows your pelvis, it's more of a, think of it more of a neutral pelvis when your toes are straight ahead. And then when we go to Warrior 2, we just pick that foot up, turn it out, and take it down. Taking that foot, the toes off the ground, instead of just scooching the foot over, takes the pressure off your knees. So watch me again. Up and over. It really changes the hip structure, and that's what you want. Bend into the knee, Warrior 2, right? So we talk here for a second about, because I have people ask all the time, I don't feel comfortable with the foot here. My hip hurts, my knee hurts. Once you get there, turn it in a little bit. You can turn that toe in just a little, right? You're just not going to have quite as deep, and that's okay. So turn that knee in, or the toe in just a little, right? But get the heel where it needs to be, and that's going to allow you to keep this knee back, and again, take the pressure off. I end up taking my heel back just a hair, so that we end up with the back foot toe turned in a little. And again, that changes what's happening in your hip, which takes the pressure off the knee. Reverse versus this. Hand can hang or go across the low back. We have a lot of people that will straighten this front leg. Wherever your Warrior 2 is, the only thing that changes is the upper body. All right? And then we'll do extended angle, hand or forearm. Take time to roll this rib cage open. You can keep your hand here, come up from the side, or you can bring it up from the front, because a lot of people, have shoulder issues, and coming up from here, you almost end up twisted. Bring the arm front, and come up from here, a little more freedom of movement, all right? And then we'll come back up, Warrior 2. And then triangle pose, the leg is straight for this, and I teach a hand on the hip and thigh. Lengthen out. So we take the rib cage out, right? And the hand can stay on the thigh or the shin, and again, you roll open hip. And warrior two. So there's warrior two sequence. Wide angle forward fold, and we go to the other side, right? So let's talk about any questions that you have about the standing version. Let me know. We will happily revisit this next month. Promise, okay? But let's talk about the adapted part first, okay? Let's spend today's visit talking about how we can adapt yoga to suit the person in the chair. You guys with new knees. So I would say turn your chair towards the camera, or you can use this one. Either one is fine. There you go. Because what I want you to think about is I want them to be able to see how you move this way. All right? Let's put you front center.
Okay.
I need to talk and do it at the same time. So, sit. So first off, you have to establish seated. What do you have to do first? Mountain pose. The mountain pose, and we didn't talk about it standing, but the mountain pose is the foundation for every other standing pose you're going to do, period. Every standing pose is going to come out of mountain. So I don't care if you're seated or standing, mountain pose is important. Your feet, right under the knees. Pada Bandha, so we feel the four corners, we lift the arch, keep the big toe down, and we can transmute that energy from the foot into the pelvis, Mula Bandha. Give a little lift to the pelvic floor. Give a lift through the sternum, shoulder blades slide down, then find Uddiyana Bandha on an exhale. Right? But if mountain pose is you just waiting, you're missing out on a very important posture, right? So you've got some issues here that we can talk about in your seated mountain that you might not notice in a standing mountain. For example, we tend to sit here and the knees will go up. Okay? Well, if you were standing, it'd be like this. We'd like to be all collapsed, right? Try and get the knees in line. That's going to make your core work a little bit harder. I'm sorry. Not really. So everything's got to be engaged but not gripped. If you can't hold your knees in line with your big toe, take the feet wider, right? You just don't want to be here and rolled out. That means that you've lost Pada Bandha. Mula Bandha is not even going to be able to engage very well. So find this as if you were standing in mountain. And that's already a little bit more work. And then Uddiyana Bandha, shoulder blades down the back in your mountain. So this is Tadasana, right? Smacking each other. So when we say from mountain, I want you to find your wide-footed mountain. You're going to take your feet wider, as if I were standing. Second toe is straight ahead. Again, that allows the knees to be open but not collapsed. Pull up from those arches. Now when you've got your feet here, your feet may end up being an absolute slight angle when you're seated. It's not much, they're not out like this, but second toe straight ahead may not be the best cue for you. Think in terms, big toe straight ahead when you're seated. That's a little bit easier on the knees, okay? Pull it all up again. This is where your warrior stance comes from. So this is wide angle warrior, wide angle mountain, right? And so we'll do wide angle. We're going to go to the left first. So you're going to take and turn that left toe out. Now you can stay here. Some people, this leg doesn't necessarily go straight, but we're working on warrior two. You want to be close enough that really the only thing on your chair are your sit bones. But again, you don't want to be falling off this chair, so be careful. So in general, you turn the toe out. This foot can slide out this way, straight out. I've seen people teach it that way, and that's fine, because your body's facing this way. But I actually teach warrior two from more of a warrior one position, because I think a lot of people's knees don't like that. But this is an option for your warrior two. Here's your reverse. Here's your extended angle. right? Boom. Now to do triangle, you're gonna switch legs. You're gonna bend to this one and extend this one out and slide over. Okay? And come back up. So let me show you a different way that you can play with Warrior Two, and I do tend to teach it more like this out of a Warrior One position. So from here, we turn the toe out. I'm gonna shift in my chair and take this leg back, right?
And I'm gonna grab a block.
Yes, she's gonna grab a block because I told her that you can put a block under this front foot. And it really does help the pelvis. I don't care how tall or short you are, but if you're particularly short, having that block right there can be really helpful. Okay? And then slide the back leg back. Well, now your body's facing this way. Hello, Warrior One, right? I then teach to just simply rotate open. It really is a personal choice. What are you most comfortable with? So there's your Warrior Two, okay? And you can keep the foot up or down. I have a whole different limb length on the other side. Here's your reverse. Here's your same angle. You really can't get to Trikonasana from here, triangle pose, without shifting and then extending, right? But you've got your own choices. So we'll go back through that and slow it down. Let's do it the other side. Come back to center. Wide mountain. So now we're gonna turn our right foot out. Might be your left at home. And you're gonna slide it out. So here is this version of Warrior Two. And your reverse. And your extended angle. And Warrior Two. All right, so we're switching the legs up, bending this leg, extending that leg out for triangle, Trikonasana. And Warrior Two. Just come back, right, to wide mountain. Or shake it out. So a lot of times we'll come up and we'll do a wide angle forward fold in between sets. Toes are out a little bit or toes are in. You're just gonna round over, and maybe for you, you're gonna slide back on the chair to try and get your hands to the right. Don't have to, right? You can hang. And then when you're ready, you'll come back up. So that's a nice alternative. That always feels good on the back. And it becomes more of a ragdoll, which I love anyway, except there's no hamstring really release. All we're doing when we do the wide angle forward fold is trying to get a little more adductor, inner thigh work involved. So you had some particular questions about warriors and how you were, what was engaged and what wasn't. So let's talk about that for a second.
Right. So when I'm turned and I've got my foot over here, which I can do the pivot on the block. So I get that done, and sometimes I use my yoga pants leg to help get this leg back. Once I'm all facing this way,
right,
for Warrior One, what am I turning?
If you're doing that version,
I'm doing
from
this
Warrior
version.
One to Warrior Two, it's really just your waist.
At the waist.
Your hips might move with you a little bit, but for the most part, it's a waist twist.
Okay.
Okay. And again, really just because I think a lot of people are more comfortable without the leg extended. Do it with the leg extended version. So come back in and see if that makes any, see what the difference is for you personally. That leg is out, so that's your extended leg. This is your bent leg. So any chance at all of getting that toe a little straighter?
Straight towards
me.
Towards me.
And maybe not, that's fine.
That's about
And
it.
that's fine. That's fine. So then by Warrior Two. So technically speaking, this is more of a Warrior Two. Notice her front line is facing the nose, the sternum, the belly button, all facing the front, and she's open from the pelvis. But look at her right foot. See if you can put that outside edge of the foot down and lift the arch. So again, it's just a difference in stability. You have to bend the knee to do that.
Bend the knee to do it.
So it really depends on what's going on. If your foot is in here, you might try taking it out a little bit. It really you have to play with it. You decide which one of those versions works for you. It's just that simple. When I'm doing this side, this is my chair version, I'm on my sit bones, I can point the toe and get it a little flatter. Notice I have to turn it in a little bit because I get pada bandha, and that's fine. I just don't feel like I get as much out of this hip. I feel like this hip is stuck here. I don't mind doing it, but if I come into it from Warrior 2, from Warrior 1, I get a little bit more out of these hip flexors. It's just a personal choice, but those are the two options. If you're doing it from the Warrior 1 side, which is this one, right? It's the waist that you're turning, waist and up, right? If you're going from this version of Warrior 2, you're already there.
Right.
Okay? And you have to pick what's going to suit you best. Where are the benefits for you? You had a question about glutes working. I forget which posture.
That was when that was standing.
Oh, with the standing one, yeah. Well, we're going to come back and address some different ways to do standing with support. So my suggestion is play with the seated versions, because honestly, adapting yoga to your body is exactly that. I can sit here and go, some of you can do it this way, some of you should do it this way, but I don't know who you are. I can't see you. So you have to decide what's going to work best for you, right? So we may go through a real quick little Warrior 2 sequence, and I'm going to let you decide. You do it any way you want. I'm going to look.
Okay.
Right?
And I will say that for me, sometimes when I do the standing, I'm so worried about balance and everything, I don't really get my chest open and get that good stretch. But when I'm seated, I can really focus on, like, okay, is my arm up? Is my chest open?
Right.
Is it like that? And so that's another benefit, I think, that
It really is. It really is. The chair gives you stability that standing isn't affording you. So, and seriously though, seated versions, you're missing out on the weight bearing, which is okay. If you gotta do them seated, that's fine. So don't really worry about what's the right way to put my feet and hips. What's the most comfortable way to put your feet and hips when you're doing the seated warriors, okay? Because again, being seated, wherever you are, really lets you focus on, like she said, getting that upper body open, dropping the shoulders. You're not having to grip to hold you here. You're reversed, by the way. You can always hold that back of the chair. Maybe you get a little bit more. An extended ankle. Same thing. Really lets you reach. Really focuses on the arm and the ribs, so rolling it open. So yeah, it can be really beneficial to use the chair. Right? Let's look at Warrior 1 real quick while we're here. That little Warrior 1 sequence we do with horse and pyramid. We don't really do a pyramid really well from the chair, but we can adapt it a little bit. So Warrior 1 is turned sideways. Slide the foot back. We were laughing a minute ago because I can do Warrior 1 with my knee down. So let's talk about this for a second. Like that's how long I am. You can take this block. Let's say I'm not this long, or you're not this long. You can put that block there and let the floor catch you here. And now you're doing the knee down version that we do, it's called knee down lunge, right? So if you don't need that, and then from there, you'll progress to sliding the leg back. You're on the ball of the foot. You guys have their toe bends that I do. I'm on tippy toes here. You've got the back of the chair here, and I'm going to lean back slow. I've got my arm kind of on the back of the chair. Check in. This sit bone is not on the chair. So this challenges your balance a lot more than Warrior 2 does. Maybe the outside arm is up, in this case the right arm. If you've got your good balance, then you can do that one. That's Warrior 1. And then for horse, you would put the hand back here, lean out with the hand behind you, We'll put the hands on the knee. You can slide both arms, you can get it around the chair, that's fine. And we'll come back up again, the back of the chair is always there. To get into playing with pyramid from here is a little more challenging. You could take time to scoot to the front and extend the leg, and that's fine, except that where the seat touches, right here at the sit bone, doesn't let you hinge very well without possibly falling out of the chair. So if you're doing chair version with us and we're going from warrior one to horse, your pyramid is just going to be a leg slightly bent and lean out. You're not going to get the hamstring stretch, and that's okay. We can get it some other ways for you, or just come back to center and wait on us, we'll play. Where the seat comes in at that sit bone doesn't really let you hinge. Does that make sense? So you can always come to the front, scooch around to the front. You can do this version, which gives you a little bit into the hamstring, but not as much. Again, your hamstring attaches at that sit bone. So you're pressing on that attachment, which is kind of making it immobile. So you can do this version, which is fine. You just come back to the front for pyramid. I guess it was this way. Right? And that gives you some of it, but not quite the same, and that's okay. That's just a variation. So let's go through really quickly warrior one, and then we'll morph it into warrior two. And again, you choose leg back, waist open, or leg extended. Okay? So we're starting our mountain. Again, Pada Bandha, knees are supported, Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha. We're just going to inhale up and exhale down. And we're going to turn and we're going to take the feet wide. You're going to inhale up and you're going to find your warrior two to the left. Turn the left toe out. And I'm going to come in from warrior one because that's just how I prefer it. And then warrior two is going to be just like that, beautiful. And then reverse. And extended ankle. And warrior two. Fantastic. And then triangle, we're going to switch legs. We're going to bend this one, extend this one. And come out over the extended leg. And warrior two. And back. And we'll set up for warrior one. Turn on your seat. Make sure you've got a good hold here because this sit bone is off the chair. Slide the leg back. Again, I'm going to choose to come onto the top of my foot because my toes don't end. And so this is going to be my warrior one for right now. 1 arm or two. And as we go into horse, maybe use the back of the chair and lean out. Maybe you put both hands on the leg. Maybe both hands fly. But again, that's a little more challenging. You've always got your hand back here for the chair, right? And then come back up, warrior one. If we're going to do pyramid, let's go ahead and come back to warrior two here. Come in, center, extend the leg out that was out. So it's going to be our left leg. Lean out, and there's going to be your pyramid, right? Toe, maybe not, shins, fine, thigh. And we'll come back up. Fantastic. So any other questions about our warriors before we move to the standing?
No, I think that's all I had for sitting
Okay.
warriors.
If you got any questions, shout them out, okay? So we're going to come to standing. So we're simply going to go behind the chair. So the chair's going to come in front, and I may turn sideways so that they can see how I hold the chair. You can do that right? So you'll find your mountain, and again, the chair's always here. I have a lot of private clients in particular that we work with standing balance postures, and
Mountain can be a balance posture if you have any kind of vestibular disease, or you've got, I have a client that has an old head injury, so her balance is gone. So chair is always there if you need it, but play with your feet, play with your mountain, right? And then maybe you try and take your arms up your mountain. You don't have to, you can always keep one hand down, right? But if you're comfortable here, then you're gonna be comfortable using the chair in your warriors. So bring them back down. So let's take the feet wide. Straight, second toe straight ahead. And on this one, second toe straight ahead matters, because again, we talked about this, it allows the head of the femur bone to move inward. So
And I keep my feet a little bit more in for a little bit more stability.
Yes, and that's good, yes. You just don't want to stand here with them out and then expect to be able to move, because they won't hinge quite the same way. This allows you to pull up Pada Bandha, and again, toe in a little bit. When the second toe is straight ahead, it feels like your big toe has turned in a little, right? So that's exactly what we're looking for. And a lot of people, they'll say, well, there, my second toe's straight ahead, and I'm like, no, that's your big toe that's straight ahead. Oh, right? So from here, wide angle, mountain, we're gonna go to the right, warrior two. So you're gonna pivot that foot up and out. Now that's gonna take this hip with you a little bit. Bend into the knee, rotate the rib cage, keep the nose and sternum and ribs out, and then maybe your arms come out, or maybe you have one hand on the chair. Doesn't matter which, maybe you were there long enough, you switch them out.
And so with this one, where are my hips facing?
Okay, that's a good question, because they face different ways for different people and from side to side. In general, when we turn, when we turn the right foot out, this hip goes, right? Which means, ladies, this hip has to come with you a little bit. Look at my hip points, right? They're facing here, this way. Now, I'm going to do it on the other side. I want you to see the difference, hip points. Turn it out. Because I have a different hip structure. Don't get so caught up in, where am I going with this? If you need to turn your pelvis in a little bit for stability, turn it in. We're built differently, okay? So for me on this side, I bend in. For me, the foot placement, I go and get my hips this way. My back foot is down. If I'm not careful, I'll end up this way. And that's a lot of pressure. It feels better in the hip, but it's a lot of pressure on the knee, and I end up gripping with my toes. I'm gonna go to all the trouble of taking that out, making sure the knee is lined, and then I'm gonna let my hips float in a little. Now here's the key. We forget all about this backside. I'm so focused on this, oh my God, oh my God. But if you will push into that back leg, lift that arch, keep that flow of energy, up, 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 down, 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 down. Then when you go here, now I can actually pick the toes up, right? So let's play with that for a second. So warrior two, when you get there, take your time from your mountain. We'll turn that right toe out. Nice. And if you'll drive down into that back leg, use that back leg. And again, it changes what's going on. Uddiyana Bandha is your friend here. Pada Bandha in that back foot. Now you should feel a little more stable, but that's going to depend on what's going on in your body, as always. And reverse here. Drop that back arm. Nice. And extended angle. Okay, so come back up to warrior. So let's play with extended angle for a second. Because in general, again, extended angle is more about opening this rib cage. If you're looking down and you take the arm up, it's going to come out of the back body, which is not a bad thing, except it's really not what we're going for. Not to mention the fact that if you're looking down from here, I'm not over the thigh. I'm actually out over the floor. So I've lost potential strength, gaining that I can do in this leg, right? So let's rotate the ribs. Notice I'm rotating the ribs and sliding. My nose and sternum are facing the same way. My ear is right over that knee. Now feel your glutes on that right side. Push into this heel. And then as you roll it open, you can take the arm up and over the ear. Again, you can use your chair. Perfect. So much better to use the chair. Look at how much more open you are.
Yes.
If you wanted to, turn the palm. If your shoulder will go that way, look at more range of motion.
Yes.
Okay? Talk about opening the rib cage.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, this side's definitely now longer than this one. Yeah.
Well, let's fix that. We'll
Okay.
get it right. Just remember that about the arms. If we're here and your arm is facing the front, odds are you're actually turning it in a little bit, right? What you want to do is spiral it open. Right? And what I mean by that is, watch this. In and up. In and up. In. When I say spiral, I mean spiral. I don't mean just turn the wrist. This is called ulnoradial rotation and nothing happens. I lead with this. My little bony elbow here. Scoop it under. Now look at your range of motion. Right? Big difference. Drop it down and do just the wrist and then try and do the same thing. It's going to get pinchy. You're not going to get as far.
Yes.
Spiral. Dig. Right?
Right.
Let's do the other side. And again, play with your feet. And when you're ready, warrior 2 to the left. Pivot and down. Bend into it. Lift the arches. Push down into the back leg. This leg is working. See if you can pick your toes up in the front. And then warrior 2. And again, you've got your chair here. You want to really focus, use your chair to support the balance. And then reverse, and again, the chair's here if you need it. Did you spiral your elbows? An extended angle. Take time when you get here. Again, if you're using this arm on the chair, spiral this one over. Up and over. You could almost pat the floor. And then warrior 2. And center. Now, we haven't talked about pyramid, standing with the chair. Pyramid, again, it just depends on what's going on in your body. I'll do it this way so you can see. So not pyramid, Trikonasana. So we come out of, boom, right? We'll straighten this leg, and this is where your chair just gives you the support. One of the reasons in triangle pose people come forward is because they're off balance. They don't have the core support yet. With the chair here and your hand here, the hand here reminds you to push that hip back. Ribs stay over the thigh. Hand comes down to the shin. Now you can stay here. Push rib cage open, but still keep the hand on the chair if you want. If you're going to try taking it up, it'll come straight up, right? Nice. Perfect. And come back up. Try the pyramid on the other side. Or, excuse me, I keep saying pyramid. Triangle pose. So turn that foot out. We did warrior 2. We'll straighten the leg. Hand for support. Lengthen out. Reach the rib cage out. Push the chair as you roll the rib cage open. Maybe you're taking the arm up, maybe not. Very nice.
Yes.
Okay, so those are just some adaptations that you can play with especially as you move from fresh out of surgery, guys. But even if, let's say, oh, you're just really tired one day, if you have an autoimmune disorder, let's go ahead and sit if you want. That was tiring. If you have an autoimmune disorder, you can be really tired some days and go, oh, I'm not going to participate. I won't be able to do it. Well, sure you can.
Yes.
Sure you can. This is your support, right? Maybe next time we'll talk about how to use the chair to get up and off the floor so that you can come down to the floor and participate. You just need the chair to get back up. So we'll talk about how you can add a chair into your sun salutation. Maybe we'll do that one next time. But the chair, you know, like anything else, is a tool, right? It's not a crutch. We can have a long conversation, but everybody knows how I feel about this stuff. You have tools in your toolbox. If you're going to do carpentry, you don't use your fingernail to tighten a screw. Use a screwdriver because it's the tool best to use to do the job. Oftentimes, we use mats. Why do we act like mats aren't some sort of a tool? They are a tool. You try and do warriors on this floor, you'll slip and slide. Try and do warriors on your hardwoods, you will slip and slide, right? So we use the mat so that we don't slip and slide. We also use the mat to cushion our knees, to cushion our shoulders when we're laying down, to give us a sense of grounding, to block this space as our own, right? So it's a mental tool as well as a physical. So why are blocks and chairs and straps and bands and everything else not tools too? I'm going to end on that note.
Yes.
Anything to add? Any other questions that somebody else might have wanted?
No, and if you feel like you need a chair, like we said, it doesn't mean that you'll always be in the chair.
Yeah.
You might just need it for a little bit, and some days I need it, some days I don't. You just never know, because bodies are weird like that. So that's what tools are for. So
Yes. Yeah. Use them as a tool. All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful day. Let us know if you got any questions, and please reach out. I mean, this is, I could sit here and give you an example of somebody going, oh, I really don't like bridges. You know who you are. and me going, well, I didn't know that. I've been working with you for years. I didn't know you didn't like bridges. Why don't you like bridges? Well, you explained it bothers your hip. Well, why didn't you say something? Put some blocks under those feet. Mind blown, right? So I, give me the questions. If you don't like something, tell me, and we can look at what you're doing. What would be fun is if you could record your stuff and send it, or if you're willing to be on camera here sometimes after class, we'll record a little thing with you. Maybe your question is the question 10 other people are afraid to ask. Okay? Namaste, everyone. I love you guys. Mwah.